And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and I thank you so much for joining us here on the program as I am moving things around and adjusting adjusting my horizontal and my vertical. I leave the diagonal to anybody else who wants to deal with it. You're listening to the Tell Me Your Story. You're also watching it on YouTube if you are. It's a program designed with new paradigms for a new world. We're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices. It's humorous, folks. Let me tell you, it's life. If you can't laugh at life, you can't laugh. So you better start laughing. This program is here Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday mornings at 1 a.m. We stream live at those times, as well as the 9 o'clock Wednesday broadcast. That's 9 a.m. We stream the live broadcast at richarddugan.com. We podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes and iHeartRadio and Spotify and Stitcher and TuneIn Radio and a bunch of other places, some of which you folks are reposting our interviews to. Thank you for doing that. And on YouTube, where you can watch these interviews. I hope you'll subscribe to the podcasts and or the video casts. It's great to have you with us. If I had to spend, I'm going to try to keep it small to start with, 5 hours a day, sitting in a chair with some breaks along the way, doing this. I would do this for the rest of my life. I would do it both in studio. I would do it on remotes, on location, on the road, on the beach, on the ocean, on the water. Yes, green eggs and ham. I love them, Sam. I love green eggs and ham. I'll eat them anywhere. But I will tell you that this program comes your way on those times and days because we're trying to change the world. Yes, tall order, but the beauty of it is I'm not alone. My guest is joining me, along with a bunch of other people who have been my guests. And we're going to talk with my guest, who has a very interesting website as well. And her name is Karuna. And she's joining us all the way from, where are you today, Karuna? And thank you for joining us.
I'm so blessed to be here. Thanks, Richard, for having me. I am in a little mining village called Gold Hill, Colorado.
Ah, and how far is that maybe from the place I know of, Denver? I've never been there, but I know where it
is. So it's about an hour and a half from Denver, hour and 15. From Boulder, we're closer to Boulder. We're 20 minutes from Boulder. Okay. So we get our groceries in Boulder.
Very good. I have a friend in Denver who's invited me there, one of our guests on this program, and I have not taken him up on it yet, but I plan to. I absolutely.
Well, please come see us in the high country, because you can't come to Colorado and not live in these mountains for at least a day.
Well, I have to tell you that I have actually become accustomed to living in the mountains. We live in the mountains above Santa Barbara, the San Ynez Range.
Okay.
Only 2,200 feet, and we have gotten snow on occasion. It's really very
okay.
So I'm really enjoying that. Now you are a yogini. We're going to find out what that is. You also have a website called Light on Kundalini. Now, I first heard about Kundalini through my metaphysical primer, Autobiography of a Yogi, when I was 16, 17 years of age.
Fantastic.
I've read it hundreds of times. I have it on my phone as an Audible book.
Yes, you do.
And I'm curious as to how you became introduced to where were you, what were you doing, and so forth when you became introduced to the Kundalini energy and the whole spinal energetic network, if you will.
I wish that I could say when it happened. When I was introduced to it when I lived in Los Angeles, and actually until I came back to find my roots in Colorado, that I go back and do a level 1, level 2, level 3 teacher training course. It's a graduation, my dear, and we're not we're not so privileged to say I am a Kundalini yoga master. There was one, Mahan Tantric, and there will only be one Mahan Tantric. And he brought it from the east to the west because he said us Westerners need a little bit of an awakening. So let me give them Kriya, let me give them meditation, let me ground them from their hippie days in the 70s. He first found his students. He was from the Punjab area near Amritsar. His guru is Guru Ram Das, and there's 10 Sikh gurus. So it's a Sikh tradition, Sikh, and that's where the practice is derived from, yet they don't do yoga, physical yoga. So that's super cool. And that's what interested me the most was, oh, good, I don't have to fall into a linear practice where somebody is telling me the same thing every day to do, because I'm just too spontaneous for that. I get very willing to go deeper. And so this practice could allow me to break down my barriers, to teach me the facets of my mind, to give me a practice where I can sit with myself and not have someone tell me what to do, and let me hear and learn and listen. And that truly is why I love Kundalini yoga, because there are 4,000 kriyas, and there's 81 facets of our mind, and there's these projections that go with every single one of those facets and aspects that go along with them. So depending on, I'm sure today you were the manager, you were the producer, you were the artist, you were the actor, you were everything in all your podcasts and all your interviews today. You play many different roles. We do on a daily basis. And so, what I liked was it worked. I could understand with a very, elementary point of view with no background. Yet I was a yogini. I was doing yoga practice for 30 years because I like the physical practice as well. But then when it took me to a place where I was starting to understand, I cannot be attached to this body, form, shape. Are you kidding? There's got to be something else in here. And it was my heart. And it opened my heart. And I got to see, when I received my name Karuna, which was given to me in Varanasi, India, after 7 trips to India, and I received my name the first trip, I had this partnership with myself that I was going to go through the thick and the thin of it. And I was going to go into the fire, not knowing what the fire really felt like when it started burning. And that, was energetic enough to say, I'm waking up, I'm growing up, I'm cleaning up, I'm showing up. I work with Ken Wilber, and we have multiple programs together from the UN, from International Yoga Day. We did one with, I was keynote speaker with Deepak Chopra. I can send you that beautiful interview we did through the UN on International Yoga Day in June. And as you know, we have this magazine called Light on Light magazine, and now we're a press, a publisher. So, we're bringing in all sorts of different voices, and they cannot be necessarily a linear voice in this time. We're in the Aquarian age, the Piscean time, the Kali Yuga, the dark age, which we're still in. And that's why we're fighting to get out of it. Hence my face plant yesterday. Here's my face plant, everybody. Right, yeah. I got a shiner. But I love it. I mean, what was amazing was I hit a face plant on my walk I do every day. And it was just in front of the ashram, and there happened to be a young man taking pictures in a car, and I said, with a very bloody, can you take me to the ashram? Yeah. And I met my sisters in the ashram that are my neighbors, and they helped me, and they helped me, and everyone came out of the woodwork to help me get my the chiropractor and the ER, and my son and his wife, and it just showed me that this life force that we have inside of us got me back on my feet after I did and took me to where I needed to go to get help. And if we could just use our yogic practice to understand every part of our meditation and our yoga practice, anyone you want to do is all are welcome, is taking us to the next step. And then it asks us to be in trust. And it's hard to believe. It's really hard to believe when you're in chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working, so that drew me into an educational practice where I started educating others to be Kundalini yoga teachers. I brought teachers from all over the world to Colorado, to Boulder. And we started making students into teachers, which is said to be the highest caliber of our human being, is to be a teacher. So whatever, you want to go out there and teach and share and send and spread this light, however you want to do it, is super, super energetic, and it needs stamina. So where do we find the stamina and the vitality? And we find it in sitting in silence and listening deeply. What was the message when I kissed the Mother Earth yesterday? What was that message? What was that sign? When your nose is bleeding, what's that sign? So not to go into really trying to figure it out at all, but just let it go, right? Let it flow. And that's yoga.
As did the blood.
As does the blood.
As does the blood flow.
As
Yes,
does the blood. It's the mother, as the Native Americans say, it's the ocean. The world ocean we cross is the mother's blood.
Absolutely.
So I do hold a Native American pipe name and a lineage, a Lakota lineage. My name is Chante Iton Wawagalakawi, woman that speaks from her heart. So, I was in a sweat lodge in Vermont, and a medicine man just handed me a piece of paper, and somebody told me what it meant. And I said, oh, okay, now I'm a pipe carrier. Wow, God, what else? What to do?
And what's interesting about that for me is that I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. Not exactly the heart of Indian country, but certainly a part of it. Lots of reservations around and so forth. And
Out of spirit.
Yeah, but I never wanted to learn about the Native Americans because I felt that by doing so, I would be treading on sacred ground I had no business treading.
I hear you.
And
yes, and I bow to that.
Yeah, so I never really researched it. And then I had my DNA tested. And my DNA test came back that I used to share this when I was a kid in school, and they would ask about, where you from, your lineage. And I'd say from what I was told by my parents, I'm Heinz 57, because my family's from so many different places. Well, my DNA confirmed that almost literally. There are 7 continents on the planet, all right? I'm from 5 of the 7, Heinz 57. Hello.
Whoa.
No DNA from Antarctica, nor any DNA from Australia.
Good.
But I finally have made peace with that part of me that is under the DNA testing. I am native North, Central, and South Indian.
Oh.
I have DNA from the Americas.
Great.
From Canada down to the tip of Argentina.
Wow.
So I now feel like I can look into that. And I have a dear friend here in Santa Barbara who is a Chumash Indian. And he has shared with me that I am the next generation of Chumash. Not because it's part of my lineage necessarily, But because of what you, Karuna, and I, and many others are doing to make a difference in this world and transform it. And that's what we want to talk about here on the program today as we continue on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. You know, Karuna, we look for those new ways of living because we know the old ways don't work anymore. I mean, you just have to look around you. So here on Tell Me Your Story with New Paradigms for a New World, we have guests like yourself who are working to make this a better place for everyone. And I don't know about you, but I personally believe it's possible. Tell me how, through Kundalini, you are able to bring that about. I do want to talk about your Native American experiences as well, but tell me about the connection between Kundalini and affecting change in the world that people begin to embrace. They begin to understand and they want transformation.
I think the first place we need to start is your spine and your core and your tailbone. So those lower chakras sit dormant for lifetimes after lifetimes. If you want to believe there are lifetimes after lifetimes, it's all your choice, okay? No judgment. But it is told through science that the tip of your tailbone has an energetic that once it starts to spiral, it sends a message up to the third eye point and the endocrine system to the pineal gland and activates. And what does it activate? It activates the subconscious patterns that come at a 60-degree angle before the sun rises and before the sun sets. If you meditate at that time, this is specific Kundalini, okay? That these angles and triangles connect the right left hemisphere of the brain, the pineal, the endocrine system, parasympathetic, sympathetic, hypothalamus, thalamus. All the organs in the body start to radiate and you become healthier. You become all of a sudden, okay, happier. Like I'm smiling. You said laugh, laugh, laugh. I say, hey, if you laugh, you have a smile. And when you have a smile, you have a beautiful ability to have a vitality that gives you a serenity to slow down, to listen deeply and say, what can I do in this world to participate with that in which needs participation right now in my community? So baby steps in the way of, you know, integrating a new yogic practice, possibilities of opening up that pineal, rebirthings, ridding yourself of trauma. So what Kundalini Yoga does is it gives you these very stable, very logical exercises that you must experience. You can't read them in a book. You can study them, but they're timed specifically as I teach them. I teach Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday on Instagram at Light on Kundalini, 9 o'clock Mountain Time. And we are going through a series on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time of rebirthing. There's 27 rebirthings. So we started with the first 4 of house cleaning, 1, 2, 3, and 4, where it took you through a method timed wisely, accurately, so you elevate. So we poke, provoke, confront, elevate. So that opens you up to the possibility of you hearing that same pattern you do 90% every day, same pattern. You're just reacting where our grandparents and our ancestors gave us that torch to sever. We're reacting to it. So we're not actually serving our ancestors. We're actually in the way of doing the same thing with addiction, especially with addiction. Eating, nutrition, all that comes into play. So when we do a sadhana every morning, consistently every morning, you put in your brain a pattern that's actually serving you, because inevitably you will go through all your demons. Like the Dalai Lama says, I line them up, I speak to them, I say hello, and check them off. You're done. Go away. Every morning he does it, even if he's on the treadmill or the bicycle, and so do I, because that is an amazing witness and conversation you have before that sun rises. And if you integrate a lifestyle around it, where you take a cold shower, you dry scrub, you put oils on your body so they secrete inward, you become very healthy looking and happy, and and you're able to make your mind up in 9 seconds, or you're smart enough to wait 24 hours or 72, whatever it takes. So we're not randomly acting and reacting. So we're not like this yo-yo anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to say, emotions are no longer commotions. Emotions are devotion. Oh, and yeah, I love, Karuna means compassion. So, there's many faces of compassion. She can be Durga. She can be Kali. She can be many. She can be Lakshmi. She can be many different faces, depending on how you are. How are you as my reflection right now? What are you seeing? What are we sharing? This is heart to heart, no? This isn't necessarily head to head anymore. We're not butting. It's elk season here in Colorado, but we don't have, we're not, we're making noise. And that gets me to the next part of Kundalini yoga, which is the music, the divine music from your heart chakra up. You have a divine sound current. So it just shatters anything that doesn't want to live in you anymore. It's going to help you. So we chant the mantra. We chant Guru Guru Wai Guru, Guru Ramdas Guru. Or we chant the Ramadasa, Sase Soham. And it's so beautiful. And there's so many different versions of each mantra that comes from the Guru Granth Sahib, 1,500 pages, similar to all sacred texts in different traditions have a sacred text. But this Guru Granth Sahib is very, very sacred.
We're talking with a very special woman here on the program today who is sharing with us about her life, her experiences, and the way she is changing the world in her world, if you will. Karuna is our guest here, and of course she went by many other names prior. Also, you were, even before the internet age, you were a model, or I guess the correct term is a major supermodel in both New York and Paris and around the world and so forth, as well as in films. And you were a fashion you were involved with fashion.
Let me fix my.
Sure. No, go ahead.
I'm teasing. It's like yes, and yes. I was all that.
You did all that, and now you have. It seems as though more and more people today, and in the last, I don't know, maybe the last 10 or 20 years, are basically saying, I have no idea how I got into this job, this work, this career. But I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. It's not meaningful. I don't like it. I have got to do something else. But unfortunately, many people feel stuck, especially because from their perspective, it takes the money that they're earning from this job that they may be really good at in order to survive in this world. And I sit here sharing with our listeners how we want to move on from survival to thrival. And I used to think that I had created that word. I found out it's in the dictionary. So not mine to take credit for, and that's okay. I'm good with that. But I want to talk to you about that change in your life and how you have, so to speak, overcome those outer messages that bombard us, bombard me day in and day out as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're talking with Karuna, and we're talking about her life and the work that she is doing through her website. We encourage you to go to her website. And that website, by the way, is lightonkundalini.com. We will be linked to your website. Tell us about this transformation that you have gone through. You've shared quite a bit of it thus far, but in terms of your ability through your training and so forth, to no longer succumb to the outer messages that bombard us all.
Oh, they bombard me. Are you kidding? Like, are you serious?
But do you
Oh my
succumb
God.
to them? That's the question.
No, not you have to work through them. And that's part of your yogic practice, big time, is we have to make those really an out loud conversation that this is what I'm going through, folks. And I need a community, and I need some sisters and brothers to coach me through. There's so many amazing people out there in this world that can, just reach out and ask for some advice and some help, and even for the littlest tiny thing. But when you go back to the life I've had, you were asking about, we have a 7 cycle, which is our first consciousness cycle. We have an 11 cycle, which is our intelligence cycle. And we have an 18 cycle, which is an 18 lifestyle life cycle change. If we knew that at 7, which a lot of the youngsters, the parents that are bringing young kids to my classes know it. I mean, they're like, hey, Karuna, I got my mom up an hour early so we'd get here on time. I told her it was an hour earlier. They're so clever. And they're throwing their yoga mats out in front of me, and they're right in this, and they're in yoga lotus. And when I taught in the Santa Monica school system, those 4th graders, 2nd and 4th graders, couldn't wait for me to get there. Not me, but to do this practice where they could feel so still and so, look at me, I'm the Buddha, right? And it's like that stillness ingrained something into their brain, into their pattern. Then you go to the 11-year-olds, and they're all about their first intelligence cycles. And then those cycles continue 22, 33, 44, right on. So you just keep going, you keep growing, you keep changing. So at 18, I met an agent in Denver. I was working in a clothing shop. Somebody discovered me, my best friend to this day. She discovered me in a clothing shop. She said, hey, there's an agent in London in Denver, and she's got some Parisian agents coming in, and let's take some pictures of you and we'll send you down there. And in 2 weeks, I was in Paris. That was my 18-year-old cycle, right? And then moving to the 21-year-old cycle, this 3rd 7 consciousness cycle, New York, right? I leaned forward, New York. Moving into the next cycle, which is the 36, which is the 18 to, the 36 double 30. Move back from all my travels all over the world, Colorado, right? Back to Colorado, my home. Go to LA, try my acting career in LA, right? Do a few movies, need my roots, following my heart, and yes, it takes money. Yes. And it does take a lot of encouragement from family and friends, mostly friends and colleagues, because family always tries to just lock you in and keep you at home. Just stay home. And Mom was, can you just like stay home? I'm like, I don't think so. It's not my life, So, but I think one of the answers to your question is, how do you make those shifts without the attachment of poverty, right? Because we're not born into, like some people are, with a silver spoon. We have to work our butt off. We have to do that. And we work, we travel to get to where we can make the money enough to utilize it, make more of it, to serve. It sounds totally like unheard of if you're in a 9-to-5 job, but actually just finding one change in your habit that's not serving you right now will bring you prosperity. One meditation, like hut, 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 chanting God's name in your navel. We talked about the lower chakras, where that energy starts to work. It works down there first, Richard, because that's dormant. That's what sticks you to the money aspect. Well, I don't have enough money, I can't do it. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. All we have to do is give you a 40-day meditation to awaken that kunda, that pent-up coil that's talking to you about your ancestors' poverty, no less. My, grandmothers can't do it. I can't. Yes, we're here to sever these ties. So we awaken that, then we get to the heart. Then prosperity comes. Like the ashram was there when I did my face plant. The ladies from the renounced women that have been there 40 years were there to catch my, my fall. So how do we look at a face plant? Oh, bad luck, almost broke my nose. No, we look at it as falling into something. It's a sign that says, slow down. It's a sign that says, let's trust a little more. Let's listen. So really what we're asking people to do and ourselves to do, and I'm talking only about myself, clear your slate.
Yeah.
You'll find more room for prosperity when we clean it up.
Yeah. You raise an interesting item there in terms of even my life too, and also the wonderful Chinese, I believe it is a Chinese story about the farmer and his son. You've probably heard it, maybe even told it many times as well, that alludes to what you're talking about. Where the neighbor comes over one day and says, "Hey, Farmer Bill, whatever, yeah, how things going?" He says, "Well, my son, he found this horse and he's training it and it's really going well." I said, "Oh, well, that's great, that's good." The farmer says, "Well, who's to say whether it's good or bad?" Next day, this gentleman comes over and says, "Hey, Farmer Bill, how things going today?" He says, "Well, my son was training the horse and he fell off and broke his leg." And, "Oh, well, that's bad." He says, "Well, who's to say whether it's good or bad?" The next day, the military comes through and is conscripting people for military service. And, of course, the son can't go because we got a broken leg. Well, the gentleman comes over and he says, "Hey, Farmer Bill, how are things going?" And he says, "Well, my son, was going to be drafted, as it were, but because of his broken leg, he didn't go to the army, and so he's not going to die in service," kind of thing. "Well, that's good." And the farmer says, "Well, who's to say?" And this goes on and on and on. And it sort of speaks to my dilemma, as I used to call it, when it came to dualism in this world. The Mayans, of course, they call it the Mayans. The Hindus call it Maya. The Hindus call it Maya or illusion. I love the way our American comedian Louis Black says it. It's all an illusion, and it is.
Yes. Yes.
But we are the ones that place, and I will call it, I think what it is accurately, we are the ones that place judgment on the various events that happen in our lives as to whether they are good or bad, because we have no clue as to what the final outcome is going to be. And it could go back and forth and back and forth. And yeah, you know, and someone said, well, we have hard times and good times, so there's the duality. I says, well, yeah, but maybe it's just, this is just the way things are. This is just the way things are. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. And so I find that interesting as the way you have phrased it in terms of this this aspect of living our lives. We're talking with Karuna, and we are talking here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm your host, Richard Dugan, and I thank you so much for being with us here on the program as we continue speaking, especially in light of what our guest here, Karuna, is talking about in terms of this energy, this beautiful energy. Now, I can't say that I have ever participated in learning Kundalini. At the same time, you also talked about something we promote here on the program in terms of going within. We talk about people participating in the decade of perfect vision. We ask them to stop, go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm space and listen to that still, small voice. Talk to us about your impressions, your perspective on our intuition and that divine, still, small voice, that intuitional voice and so forth, that guides you, that can guide everyone, anyone.
Can we just imagine if we chose to not interrupt each other as we spoke? Could we be a more peaceful listener? And then would it be possible to hear the other person more clearly, then to resonate on that frequency with that same chakra you're speaking from, which is the heart chakra, and stop convoluting our judgments around how long is this taking? How much, excuse me, how much longer are we here for? I mean, it goes through everyone's mind because it's the 81 facets. Who am I today? What am I doing? Where is my reflection? How much money am I making? All these hows, but the true why am I here on planet Earth? Why are they playing, the games out there, competitive games out there with each other? Who's the best person? Who's driving the fanciest cars? Who's the richest at the moment? It all will like the moon, come and go, right? Who's to know? But we are for sure that the sun is always shining, even amongst that pure white outside today, that pure fog. There is sun. Can we part the clouds and just be more resilient and less looking for that current relationship of what I know, or the past relationship of, oh no way, I'm not going back into that, and be just who we are at this very moment with each other. We've never met, you and I, and yet we're resonating on a frequency where we love what we do. We love speaking about love. It's Rumi's birthday today anyway, so there, and it's a beautiful, here's a beautiful book for you called I Heard God Laughing. It's all Hafiz, and it's very, you spoke of laughing, the poems of hope and pure joy, and it is truly us going to a yogic practice. You say you've never done Kundalini, but I don't believe that. I know you've done Kundalini. I know you have, because you walk and you have rhythm and you speak and you sing and you dance and you're open, and that's Kundalini. It's just awakening the yoga within. It's truly you becoming your authentic voice. To me, that's what I teach and what I practice for myself. And the more I get in, sometimes the darker the dream. But I go deeper with them.
Right. So what you're saying is that it is possible to experience this Kundalini energy even if one has not actually been in practice, if you will, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It's being kind to each other. It's being generous. It's being compassionate. That to me defines what this yoga practice offers. Yogi Bhajan didn't have to bring this yoga practice to the West. He did not have to be talked about and, with this, that, and the other. He's not even a guru, he's a yogi, People misplace the understanding of yogi and guru. A guru is someone who brings from darkness to light, right? But a yogi gives you the transformation and the ability to experience a super amazing practice that most people will mock. Oh, I can't hold my arms out here any longer, Karuna. This is ridiculous. 11 minutes. I said, well, hold them out with your rib cage, please, and drop your shoulders and pull your chin in. Turn your palms up to the heavens and be yo, and get out of your head, And that is the way you can train your mind. And once you retrain your habit, so in 40 days, we can break a habit for you. I can give you a practice, you can break a habit. Any addiction, many teachers can help us with these addictive patterns. And one of them is changing the neurons in the brain. So we work with the neurons in the brain and we make sure that we're triggering on all, because we get short-circuited. So all circuits need a good go. So it helps to have a good diet. It helps to eat well. It helps to have a lot of understanding, and actually humor is coming through as well. But it also helps to educate yourself with your diet and understand, as I said, the baby steps. Because when you start detoxing, maybe suddenly you said, I just woke up and I'm vegan. I'm going to be a vegan. Well, my, niece, she came to visit me at 12. I was living this lifestyle, am living this lifestyle still. And she's like, I want to be that. She's 31 and she's still a vegan. And she ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a year. And her parents were like, oh my God, what did you do to my daughter? But we do get blamed. We do get blamed because it's not the run-of-the-mill lifestyle where you go into, the supermarket and just throw in the processed foods. No, you have, to grow your own food, to nurture your own garden, to drink your own smoothies, to make it, and then to educate the children and do the same thing. And let's take it to the schools. Let's invite the schools and the children so they start. I put a young person's recipe, in my newsletter, which I send out every Sunday, a letter from the heart. You can sign up for the newsletter on the website, lightonkundalini.com. Get a letter from the heart. And I also invite you to be a part. I want to hear your voice. So it's very sweet what comes out of you.
As you have traveled the world,
yes,
you have come across people of very divergent lifestyles. There's no question.
Yes.
And some people will come to you.
Yes.
With, let's say, a more affluent lifestyle, as you kind of talked about, which there's nothing wrong with that. But they seem sometimes, and maybe this is the media, I could be wrong, and maybe this is just the media, the television shows and the movies that seem to depict these folks of affluence as being arrogant and privileged and, hey, excuse me, I go to the front of the line because I make more money. I have more money than you. And I am of a higher class, and so on and so forth, with their nose in the air kind of thing.
Mm.
And sometimes these folks, this may be the stereotype, which is inaccurate, but they're searching and they think that they are maybe in one sense entitled to have these experiences with you. Show me God, or give me this thing. Money is no object. I have got to find peace in my life. Have you come across folks like that? And maybe folks who aren't affluent, but they're just of that attitude that, God told me I'm supposed to come to you and get this gift from you, and so on and so on.
I have to say I've been very blessed with every single solitary type of person, but it seems like I've never been able to detect what they bring in the room, because the energy that's set in this room here, this heart here, never calls in their egos necessarily. It's when we get down the road, when you see how long a student will last with you, that's the amusing, known judgment part of, they're really, rose-colored glasses. They love to practice. But what I see when they're there after 8 months and 10 months and a year and 2 years, and then they get that, they go through the Kali part of it, and they go through, all different aspects of the dark side, because you really start to break it down. And all that money then hopefully goes to great charities, and they start investing their wealth into different avenues. But I have to say, honestly, that what I find in people is a humble place all the time, no matter if they're a hidden wealthiest person in the world. I don't think I'd even identify with them, because most of all, I know every single person that comes either on Instagram or through my yoga room door has something going on at home. You have no idea as a teacher what they're bringing into you. And all you can do as a heart is help, no matter who they are and how much they're worth. And affluence stays outside the door, because it really isn't working with spirit, it's working with ego. And we work with spirit and soul. And that's the way it goes. And so when we get into these upper chakras and we open up these heart channels and this throat and this third eye point, you asked about how do you get to that, that opening of that pineal, which is all memory gland, right? And it is the age of Aquarius, and we can super affect this planet with this pineal gland. Imagine if we were all walking around with the pineal gland just being like a headlamp, and you could just detect it with everybody. It'd be so high. You would just be so in love. You wouldn't have to hug and kiss and make, relationships like that. You could have universal relationships, kind, without, that's why it was amazing during the pandemic, where people you didn't know were saying, how are you? How's your family? These are, people you have never met before. And I'm not talking only about yoga. I'm talking about day-to-day lifestyle. The trash man, how is everybody? Everybody's suddenly concerned for a year about each other. And then suddenly the opportunity opens up where we can be a compassionate community of people. I wish it didn't sound so impossible.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really do. I feel like it. Sometimes people think it's so esoteric. She's so ungrounded. She's so this. So it's not. It's like, hey, let me just tell you all something. My brother's coach in the NFL. Was raised with a Italian football coach. Yeah, I had to understand how to keep up, to be kept up. And yet, they say Satnam to me. They say, Care, my name's Caroline. They say, Carol, I love you. My brother Chuck wrote a beautiful story called Sideline. And he had leukemia. His first year, he's coaching at the Colts, gets leukemia.
Mm.
Bruce Arians comes in, takes over for a while Chuck goes through the chemo. And all of a sudden, now he's raising over 5 million, 6, 7 million for children with cancer, with leukemia. That answers a question to you around, what if you do have a purpose in life right now? That you get in that placement where you can serve and see what's dealt, what card game, what hand is dealt to you. And may it be this hand that's dealt to you, or this hand that's dealt to you, that you just go, I'm willing to change into a believer of light, love, community, grace, all of that. But it takes work, and it takes trust, and it takes a willingness to let go and let God. Any God will do. Generator, organizer, delivery.
There you go.
Yeah. But we have to destroy first, we have to destroy in a compassionate way. So when we work with subconscious patterns, we say, thank you, bye-bye. We're done. So we politely move them on, and then we add the fragrance or the spice that's going to be really yummy to that soup you're already boiling in there. You already have the base, the foundation. Let's just add a few little elements to it. And we'll laugh.
Here on Tell Me Your Story, I'm Richard Dugan, your host. We are talking about that mysterious and miraculous energies, the Kundalini energy that travels up and down the spine. And what is so extraordinary for me, and just what you said earlier, you did not believe that I hadn't done the practice of Kundalini. Well, from a structural standpoint, I barely know Tai Chi. I was actually participating in a Tai Chi class for the very first time. This goes back to 1990. 98 or 99. I was working there. There was a gentleman there by the name of Sunyata Saraswati. He is the co-author of Jewel in the Lotus. And I was standing there listening to the music, watching the other people, trying to mimic them and move the mysterious ball and that kind of thing. And he came over, and it was not even close. And he came over to me and he stopped him and he says, no, don't try to follow them. Just let the music take you. Just wherever the energy takes you in movement, go there. And I have to tell you, that was some of the greatest advice that I had been given in that regard. But that's something that we need to incorporate into our lives in general, because we tend to fight the universe a little bit. We want to, as the phrase goes, control the process rather than become part of it.
So very true. And we are control freaks for sure, no matter who we are. I mean, it's like, you don't have to do what I ask you to do. I'm just suggesting it. You don't have to blame me or anyone else. All we have to do is what he told you, and we work with that energetic ball. And you know, when you do work with it, there's a wrist, this wrist meridian is your heart meridian. All this is your colon, upper arms is your stomach. It's like I am this masterpiece of awareness that I'm not even aware I have. These tattvas, this is the ego, this is Jupiter, Saturn, Sun, Mercury's in retrograde, right? So if you're having a problem with anything right now in communication, it's Mercury in retrograde. Understanding the stars and the moon and the sun all play the cosmos, all play this energetic role in our lives. And that's why there's no way you can look at your neighbor in my class. If I ever see anybody looking at their neighbor, I'm like, what are you looking at, dear? I mean, that isn't going to help you. She's working on her own stuff, or he is. Are you kidding? Like I said, you don't know what each person's bringing through the door. You don't know what's going on in everyone's home. And you pray there's no domestic violence, or there's no racism or hatred for, you know, but we just have to become such sensitive human beings in this sacred way, you know, that hue, that aura. So we strengthen that seventh body, that aura, and we just do things like just playing in that aura, that 9 feet above you, below you, from side to side, in front of you and back of you, and to clear it, you know, simple, 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 just clear it. You don't like what that conversation looks like, just say, I'll be back with you in 30 seconds, going to clear the aura. Imagine if we had that kind of conversation. Oh, okay. I get it. What a good idea. I think I'll clear mine, you know, instead of what? You know, what is he talking about? Well, you know what I'm talking about, because everybody knows. Even my aunt who's 95, she knows. She knows. My mama knows. She's 87. They know. They might play dumb, but they know, because we're handed that torch. And so you have more in you, like the Tai Chi was telling you, that we need to discover. We need to open up and seep that through that skin, that Native American heritage that you carry. And imagine this. Imagine if we opened, and we are going to, by the way. It's already open, by the way. That's why you said Mayan. It wasn't a slip. Is that there's some energy working here that is opening these channels. So let us step out of the way of these openings and welcome a new conversation. It's so obvious when people don't want to do that. Yeah. I mean, it's like a no-brainer. It's like, oh, okay, resistance. Okay, fine.
I find that
not to abandon them.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing not to do, abandon them, because I have written in my own book, Choices, 5 Steps to Love, that we have the freedom to associate or disassociate with anybody we want.
Yes.
Now, when I am talking about that, I'm not talking about it on the basis of economic status, religion, political persuasion, sex, race, or any of that. I talk about it from the standpoint of the energy that they bring into my life. And whether or not it is complementary or contrary to my life, to what I want to do with my life, to what I'm led to do with my life, as opposed to someone who is in opposition, telling me, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, telling me what to do and how to do it. I had a friend of mine, I still considered him a friend, went camping. There were 3 of us, but he and I went up to the campsite first. We had just had our evening meal. We had gotten up there very late. I take that back. We had had our morning meal and got up there late and went to bed right away, built our tents and what have you. And he was telling me how to do the dishes, how to wash
Oh,
dishes. Now, I grew up in a family of 8, 6 kids.
oh,
All right, 2 older sisters, 2 younger sisters, and a younger brother. And one of the chores that my parents set up for us until we reached the age of 18 was that the 6 of us would pair off in twos. Every week, one pair would choose who would set the table before dinner and then who would clear the table after dinner and wash the dishes.
mm,
So every third week, it was my turn, along with my brother or one of my sisters. I know how to wash dishes. You don't have to tell me how. I have a lot of experience there.
yeah.
And I got upset. I threw my hands up. I walked up the hill above our campsite, and he came up the hill after a while because I had taken an axe and I had brought it down
Oh,
one small log that was in front of the fireplace, the fire pit, and it had caused the 2 pieces to go up in different directions, and somehow I had triggered his PTSD. He was a Vietnam vet. So he comes up the hill and he's telling me his story. And I in essence said, I don't care. I said, you aren't my father and you aren't my professor. I know how to do things. Don't be telling me how to do things. Suggestions I'll take. And so that's one of those things where you struggle with
yeah,
keeping certain people in your lives, especially if they're relatives. They say
yeah,
you can choose your family, but you can't choose your relatives.
correct,
And there is a certain element of truth to that. I am one
correct.
of the lucky ones. I don't have any estrangement in my family between my brother or my
Uh-huh.
sisters or my parents. We're all
Mm-hmm.
still very
Mm-hmm.
close in spite of the fact that 6 of the 8 of us live in Arizona, and my brother and I live here in California.
Mm-hmm.
But what about that aspect of saying, as you, I think, quite well said, bye-bye, to someone who is really, and we're not, I know that you're not talking about having people around you, they're yes people. Oh, yes, Karuna, how wonderful. Oh, it's so beautiful,
Right,
and da,
right,
da, da, da. We're not
right.
talking about that. We're talking more about those who are poo-pooing what you're doing and saying, no, it doesn't say that in the book that I follow, the book that is the authority, the author of, da 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 da. Can you?
Thank you for this. Yeah, I can. This story is so significant to ashram life because that's why in the early days they built so many. Yogi Bhajan would send people, they weren't even trained teachers yet. Go build an ashram, go open up an ashram, get everybody to live together, let them all live together and fight, you know? And they would go through these issues of their childhood in adult bodies, of understanding that how in the world am I going to live with this person in the same building at the same lunch and dinner table, and how in the world am I going to every day communicate? I'm going to have to work it out. I'm going to have to find a way through this block. So he got him up early. He got him up to teach him a sadhana at 4:30 in the morning before the sun rose. And it was 2.5 hours. And he'd keep him in that kitchen you were talking about, even though it's on a fire pit, till 2:30 in the morning. So they got 2 hours of sleep. So all their SHIT hit the fan, right? Everything was out of proportion and everyone was out of their mind. They were so tired. And he found that way, that lifestyle would suddenly get to their DNA their cellular level of the stuff that doesn't work in communication or with each other in community, that they were going to have to find a way to make it work and not say, screw you, I'm out of here, because there's nowhere they could go. They had to stay in it. So it is very important to establish, and this will change the behavior of, imagine standing washing the dishes with this vet, understanding that he has PTSD. You knew him, he was a friend, he traveled with you. Understanding his condition, and imagine us standing back and just saying, you're right, you're absolutely right. You are so right. Here, show me how to wash the dishes. I want to learn something new. And somehow our ego goes, what? And our patience goes, oh, there's a gift in this. There's a gift in this. Because what it's doing for you and for us is it's not heating us up where our bodies are so overheated with anger. It's getting below the second chakra to the first chakra, the soul chakra, the tailbone. It's igniting that tailbone energy to bring out compassion, because it's going to the sadness instead of the anger. It's not triggering you any longer. And I'm sure this is a long time ago this happened, because I know you're not like that anymore, or not like, or he's not like that anymore. But, or the conversation would be different, or your whatever has happened in your friendship is super interesting, because that's life. That's what we're doing this yoga practice for, is to, hey, when I fell flat on my face yesterday, no one tripped me. I had no one to blame. Yeah, I just got up just the same way when I was 21 riding a bicycle in New York City down Fifth Avenue and put on the brakes, and because someone walked out in front of me and I flew over the handlebars, broke both my elbows, put the bike on my shoulder, and walked up 4 flights of stairs to my modeling job for Mademoiselle magazine. Same energy I had yesterday. When I got up from that fall, I heard so many cracks. I thought, do I have teeth? Do I have a nose? You know, same energy I felt in my meditation when I was sitting with myself after, you know, they examined my brain. So all you who are worried about my brain out there, I did have a CT and I'm fine, no blood. But yeah, that was another adventure. But, you know, that is an important aspect of when you fall flat on your face, when you walk away, can you say, and that who called in just now was the chiropractor checking on me. He came out of his peaceful evening with his wife to make sure I was okay. You know, follow up, because that story otherwise will suck up your energy, because we want to feel good about each other and we want to do the right things. And it's such a compassionate, honest story you told. And I really feel privileged to talk about it, because like you said, you wanted to be the oracle. That is an oracle. You are an oracle.
I actually was talking with a dear friend of mine some time ago. She has since passed. She
Oh,
followed,
bless her heart.
I consider her maybe over my right shoulder.
Yes, lovely. What's her name?
Her name, Ramona. And I met her 40, I couldn't believe when I did the tabulations, I realized, oh my God, I've known her for 40 years. And we've stayed in contact and everything
Wow.
until her passing. And I have an affinity
So beautiful.
And she was a redhead, and of course, I was 21 when I first met her, so you can imagine
Oh
what
yeah.
I was going through. And she was already married to another man named Richard. So
Oh,
anyway,
she
all of
seeked
that.
you out one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. So we were chatting one day on the phone, and she says, "Okay, well, I want to send you this, that, and the other thing in the mail because I would like for you to read this or do this or whatever." And I said, "Okay, well, let me give you my address, and of course, you can address it to, Richard or Richard Dugan or, blah blah blah." Or I thought about maybe you could address it to the Oracle at. And she
Oh.
got the biggest laugh out of that. And I've saved the recording of that conversation. We actually were doing an interview. And she got the biggest laugh out of that I had ever
Oh,
heard.
she's definitely got, well, this is another
Yeah,
channel.
yeah.
She's in our aura. I love her.
She was,
Welcome.
I want to say she was, but is a remarkable
Yes.
person. She shared with me so much about. I mean, I actually referred to her as a mentor, and she did not like that at all. She says, "No, no, 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 don't call me a mentor. I'm your friend. Okay, I'm a friend."
Mhm, mhm.
And I said, "Okay, I won't do that anymore." But she was a very good friend. As a matter of fact, on my 21st birthday, she gave me a book that I carry with me to this day. I had it rebound in a spiral binding. And it's a small little book I carry around. It's called The Impersonal Life. And it
Oh,
was written in 1916 by a James Banner. And then it
oh.
was written or published for the first time in 1933. And it's basically God talking to you, the reader. It's a very fascinating
Oh.
book. I recommend it to everyone. And this is how significant this book was to her as it is to me. She says, if there was one book, if I was put on a desert island and I could only have one book, that would be the book, The Impersonal Life. It was just fascinating, and I'm curious about the work that you are doing these days through Light on Kundalini. .com is the website, folks, if you would like to find out more. If you have any writings, I'm sure you've probably written articles and things of this nature, but is there a book out with your name on it anywhere that we would be able to pick up and read about who you are, or read about
Oh,
how to begin the process of accessing this marvelous and miraculous Kundalini energy?
thank you. Yeah, we're in the process, and um, Kurt said he'd jump on with us. He's publishing my book. It's The Yoga of Awakening, and he's available to jump on and read some excerpts from it if you want him to jump on here. But that's what's coming up, and it's so interesting to read so much as I love reading, and I love reading autobiographies, and I love reading about everyone. I love them all. And right now, it's a really sweet book I'm reading, it's about animals talking to each other. And I'm almost embarrassed that I'm loving it so much, because there's just so much compassion in this book. And there's so much um, relationships that we miss with the four-legged, the winged ones, the plant kingdom, and all those that creep and crawl and fly. And me tako yase aho, to your lineage and to your legacy. But I really love I love what is coming out of Mayhem to Miracles. There's a little article in Mayhem to Miracles, which is on Sacred Stories
Mhm,
Publishing.
mhm.
And there's a little excerpt in there that I wrote. It's my Karuna uh, offering in there. So there is some of my writing in there. And we'll just have to wait for the Yoga of Awakening to come out. It's in the second round of the editor. So we should be seeing it very soon. And I feel so blessed to be able to share stories from the heart there.
Well, The synchronicity of the universe is extremely fascinating because, probably unbeknownst to you or Kurt, I am one of the four hosts who is actually interviewing 12 of the authors or contributors to Mayhem to Miracles, published by Sacred Stories Publishing, that it's available through sacredstoriespublishing.com. And I was connected with them 2 years ago when Chaos to Clarity was released, and I interviewed 12 of the authors then, and we devoted an entire month of Tell Me Your Story. All of the programs that we aired at that time, and it was three, two on Sunday, one on Monday, to the Chaos to Clarity series. And basically, we're going to try to do the same kind of thing, if you will, with Mayhem to Miracles. And the folks that I have talked with thus far have had some incredible stories to tell, lots of emotion in the context of the interviews. And
and they're real stories. It's like your story you just shared. No one can learn unless we share these stories.
Yeah, I have to say that it's never my intent to bring tears to the eyes of the guest. But I had that happen for only the second time in 40 plus years of interview.
Oh, I'm surprised only 2 times, actually.
And I even shared with her, I said, hey, thank you for being one of the few who has actually gotten so emotive that they were willing to go beyond any embarrassment to share the story through the emotion. And, there have been times when I've had a tear come to my eye when I'm listening to some of these stories, not only from Mayhem to Miracles, but just in my interviews throughout the week. And this is someplace I really would like to go with you before we wrap things up, and that is the importance, the integral part of our being human, in terms of our emotions, and how important it is for us to express our emotions, where we are coming from, whether we're telling our story or we're thinking about whatever it is that's going through us at that time, an experience that we're having. Tell us about the vitalness of experiencing our emotions and not stuffing them down, not shutting them off, not going into our egos and our brains saying, oh no, because I see so many programs now where people are being interviewed on television and documentaries, and they're starting to talk and they'll start to get emotional. You can tell they're getting choked up, right? And this is the thing that I find fascinating. Specifically the women, but even the men, they will say as they are about to tear up, I'm sorry, excuse me. As if there's something wrong with the tears. Apologizing.
I know. Well, we have been taught early on to be quiet, and not in a yogic sense, but children are not to be heard. This stems back again to that little boy, little girl, the one that was shut down from finding her emotional voice. We've had to sever. Coming from my experience, I've had to sever so many ties from emotional, covert, unemotional, covert relatives, people that wouldn't open up with me. And I had a cousin say to me today, because I'm trying to get my Italian citizenship, and I had a cousin, so I'm reconnecting with a cousin that I loved so much. And he said, you're so nice, but you always have been. That touched me so much. And, and I had a picture sent to me about when I was hugging, like my first boyfriend. And it made me fall back in love with my spirit to see my face hugging that first boyfriend, because it was so true. And it still is that way inside of me. And people misjudge that. So we're putting up boundaries and we're putting up guards to not be open-hearted, loving human beings. Halo, mind, man, the halo of the mind, where opening up these heart centers to come from the heart, to then go to the mind, and then to receive. And so when we're apologizing for our tears, instead of having that incredible youthful moment of crying and feeling and loving, what more? You can't buy that nectar in the grocery store, my friends. I don't care how many green drinks and smoothies, and if you're vegan, vegetarian, or you eat meat, you will not get what you get when you open your heart from any kind of food except your own saliva and your own love and your own compassion. And that's the necessity that you and I have in common to give others. We have to walk this planet in a way where we're not afraid to be who we are. People fall in love with you. What can you do? You can't do anything. You're not responsible for their actions because they fall in love with you. What you are responsible for is that you don't lead them because you're insecure and you need attention. That's what you're responsible for. But if you are leading each other on a path of light and love and compassion and listening, trauma stops us. There's a super cool course on healing on sacred stories called Healing Trauma. So part of my writing is on sacred stories. So I've got healing trauma, I've got the awakening of the 10 bodies, a super easy Kriya, 10 bodies. We have 10 bodies that need to be awakened every day. You can do 30 seconds, you can do 15 seconds, but just do them. So you give them a little light, and pepper them and get them open, those channels open. And then, and so there's a few programs on sacred stories publishing right now that I've made for sacred stories. And one of the ones is healing trauma, because that trauma where you didn't get it from mama or papa and being held, where you were shoved away to be silent, and what are you laughing at? How many times you hear that? Like, it's like, nothing, okay, embarrassed, get all hot and everything because you're so young, you're so sensitive, your heart is so open and loving. And so healing that in itself, and they're super easy. It's 2 hours. You can buy the course. I'll take you through it. I'll even take you through the course. I'm on there anyway with you, so I do take you through the course. But if you want it with me privately live, I'll take you through the course. That's how much I know it works. But the third aspect, the third part of the meditation is becoming superhuman. And it's simply by moving your arms. It's like, you got your, just moving your arms. Yeah. It's like, I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm liberated. I'm free. And I'm going to own this. And I'm going to continue to practice this because it doesn't fade away. Every student inevitably says, is this going to come back in 6 months to haunt me? And I'm like, oh my God, not if you stick with it every day. Yeah. Or even if you miss a day, but just have it. I mean, I was in the MRI yesterday with the CT or whatever, and I'm chanting Guru Guru Wai Guru Guru Ram Das Guru. Because I want the Guru that takes me from, my broken destiny to give me a miracle, to tell me there's no blood in my brain, right? Leaking. I think we have to motivate each other and ourselves to trust.
Yeah. I have one thing to say about that whole 10 body thing. You know, it takes me, it's enough for me to jump in the shower with this body. I got to wash 10 others? Come on. I don't have time for that. What I do have
All
time,
you have to do is breathe.
I know. Ah, yes,
That's it.
breathe, folks.
On each body. That's all you have to do. I know you move your body. Don't you tell me you don't move your
Of course I do. This is Tell Me Your Story. We're talking with Karuna, and her website is lightonkundalini.com. We hope that you will go to her website. We will be linked to her website as well as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and I thank you for staying with us as we come to the close of our program. Karuna, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the program, sharing your life, your story, your energy with us. And I hope to have you back again to continue this conversation, because I know that there are more points that we can touch on that you're working on as we move through our lives together.
Thank you, Richard. I miss you already.
Well, here's the deal.
I really do.
Questions.
And I wanted to tell you that one of the wonderful mints I have in my home, and I share with many people, is about a 5-foot statue of Kuan Yin. And Kuan Yin is the goddess of mercy and compassion, and she's not going to leave us until the last tear is dropped from our eye. And so I just want to give everyone that great big hug, virtual hug out there, and say, I'm here. If anybody needs anything from Karuna ji, please don't hesitate to email me at karuna@lightonkundalini.com. And I can, write you back, and, we can set up a private, and we can work towards your opening. No one's perfect.
Yeah.
It's an everyday deal. It's shaking hands with God, it's like every day, okay, hi. What do you got for me today? But I do want to say, let's get up and let's work on this together, and let's bring you to happiness, holiness, and health, good health.
Yeah. Well, I do have 3 final questions that I ask all of my guests. You may have addressed them during the program, but I like to ask them directly. But before I do, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, as we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. for our special edition of Tell Me Your Story. Streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. And of course, the podcast, we're on Spotify and iHeart and TuneIn Radio and Spotify, I said that one already, SoundCloud, Amazon Music. Since I went out of order, I'm not getting them all out, but we're on the internet. Just Google us and you'll find us. And you can watch these interviews on YouTube, the YouTube channel, Tell Me Your Story, Richard Dugan. Just look for the guy with the hat, and you won't go wrong. And we also encourage you, if you can support us financially, we would be so gratefully appreciative. Just send us contributions through PayPal. It's there for your security as well as ours. And when you go to the send page, it's going to ask you for the email address of the person you're sending it to. Richard@richarddugan.com is my email address, and boom, it will go to my PayPal account to go towards the work that we're doing here on Tell Me Your Story. We also ask you to participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, as we encourage you to go within, spend that time in that still, quiet, small place, and just listen to the still, small voice and get the guidance and the inspiration and the encouragement that is there for you. And with that, I begin the 3-part questioning as we wrap up the program here on Tell Me Your Stories by asking you, my guest, who is Karuna?
Karuna is love. Karuna is compassion. Karuna is somebody who cares about you. And Karuna is no longer a seeker, but observing the observer, and always growing, always sharing and learning from you.
What is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you are doing now?
Pure and utter happiness, for it is our birthright.
And finally, what is your life's purpose?
Only to serve. And dot, dot, dot. To laugh, like you said, and to feel joy and feel peace. Let us live in peace and not pieces.
Well, Karuna, once again, thank you for being our guest on the program. We do look forward to having you back again to continue our conversation here on Tell Me Your Story. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and the work that you are doing. And I'll keep moving. I'll keep dancing and raising my hand.
Come on, baby, let's do it.
All right. Thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to law.